So my name is Raquel. I work as a software engineer at the University of Reading in the UK. We are part of a European funded project called CHARMe, along with another 8 companies and institutions around Europe. Some of them are meteorological offices in Germany, Greece, the Netherlands, and the UK. And we are trying to help the climate data user community to make informative choices on the data they use for their research. So I'm going to give you a brief introduction of the CHARMe project and what we are trying to accomplish. I'll talk about what specifically is a dataset, a climate dataset for us, and the format it has, how we have used open annotation to accomplish our objective. And we have different use cases. We have a basic one that is more or less accomplished already, and we have now almost one more year to go in which we are developing advanced tools. So the typical use case is some climate data users, they go to websites from the data providers that have processed data from satellites or from in situ measurements, and they perform a search on their sites and they get a bunch of results, and sometimes it's really difficult to know the difference between one and the other. They look the same when you look at the name, and sometimes it's 100 results, you have to download them all, you have to process them all, and finally make a decision which were the ones you needed to use. So there's already metadata that exists on the web that can can help make this decision. Some of it is metadata created after the data was recorded. There are also data about external events that may have affected the data, like failures on a satellite instrument when the data was recorded, or natural disasters like hurricanes or volcanic eruptions that may have made the data look a bit different than what it really is. There's also information about data provenance, which algorithms have been used, and which version of it is the one that produced the data. There's also feedback from the user community that may help more naive users making decisions, information about data policy to know if you can use that specific data set to publish a paper about it, or results of assessments in previous studies. So all those things exist, but they are not very well linked with the data. So what we're trying to do is use the CHARMe project. We're trying to provide linkage between the data and the metadata and help users find what they really want when they go to a data provider site. So open annotation was a natural fit for us. As long as a climate dataset lives in a URL, people can create new annotations and link them with the datasets. We also were very attracted by the idea that we can record motivations under the creation of a new annotation, or tag the metadata, or have multiple targets to help intercomparing data. So what we're trying to build is a system that will have different RDF repositories where the annotations will be stored, and we'll have a plugin connected it's a JavaScript plugin for the data provider sites. And we will also have third-party systems, which can be web services or websites that use this data and produce something that inform the user. So this is a mock-up from how a data provider search result list might look like. And with the plugin we are developing, they'll have some kind of button for each of them, and once clicking one of those buttons, any user could freely discover all the annotations relative to the dataset, and also create new ones with different kind of content. Could be just free text, or it could be a URI pointing to some other product or some other image, or a paper about that. So what's exactly a climate dataset for us? They come in very different formats. It could be just a table with data. It could be data recorded along a period of time. It could be a mapped image from a capture from a satellite. It could be a more complex three-dimensional model, or it could be even a video that might not. It works. It could be also data that is mapped, and it's also changing a long time. So, for example, in this image, I'm not sure if you can see much with that resolution, but there are eddies being created. This is an image representing sea currents and sea surface temperature, and you can see how eddies and currents are moving along, and there's communities of users who are interested in this data set, but only on a subset of it. They want to comment on a specific eddy that generates this day and goes on in this direction and dies this other day. So for that, we need to be able to annotate four-dimensional data, latitude, longitude, depth, and time. So this is a picture from some colleagues of mine who they are scientists, they went on a scientific cruise and they collected some water samples, and while they were doing that, I was processing satellite images for them. So I was surprised. It was one of my first weeks in that new job. I went to their office and I saw a big wall with my pictures all cut and put together with the research they were doing with some tables and data that I didn't understand. So we're trying to help these kind of users be able to share their knowledge not only in their wall, in their office, but with other people around the world. So these users were interested in intercomparing data sets. They were interested in researching on why events occur in a specific time, why is there an eddy that grows here and not there, and why it moves in this direction or the other, and when it dies. So this is another example of data. Well, you can see Ireland, the UK, a bit of France and Spain. Is an ocean color image that oceanographers use to discover where plankton grows and how it behaves, depending on currents and other stuff that I don't understand. So if you just download the image and look at the content as just a mapped data with pixels, it's difficult to know why it's bright, which kind of brightness represents which kind of features. So you need to have a picture of it, and you need to be able to refer to, for example, that bright bit there is plankton bloom, and users could be interested in when it starts. There could be also bright bits, but if you know that they are near a river that leaves some sediment around it, you can inform the decision looking at the image only. You can also see other examples and see how I think it's obvious how scientists would like to be interested in commenting just two areas of it. So the formats that I was talking about, we use commonly one format of data called NetCDF, and it's layered data. It's mapped, two-dimensional mapped data with an X and Y axis, but it also comes in layers, which sometimes represent depth and sometimes represent time. So if you look at the image on your right-hand side, those squares are not pixels like in a normal image. They are the sampling units that the satellite or the measurement instrument is using. So we cannot use, for example, the SVG selectors in the Open Annotation model because we cannot refer to a specific pixel. We need to refer to coordinates. We need to, as I said before, we need to be able to refer to latitude, longitude, depth, and time. We're trying to develop some tools to help users inside the project. For example, this one is to help users to compare. There will be annotations correspondent to external events, like I commented before, hurricanes or volcanic eruptions or instruments in satellites when they fail. And you can relate when a peak in the data is a natural feature or is something that is caused by this external event. We are also trying to develop a tool to map the data and be able to select areas of it, transects or polygons, and make comments about subsets of the data. And we're also trying to use multiple targets for people to comment, make comments on how two datasets relate. So we proposed 2 days ago that perhaps it'd be nice that the Open Annotation model has something like a geographic selector, which is down in the middle, so that we could use to perhaps use the well-common text, which could be helpful for representing areas geographically. So yeah, this kind of use case we think is broad enough to expand the vocabulary in object annotation. Just a few conclusions, which is just, I wanted to say that the CHARMe project is only about climate data, but it's all going to be open, and it would be nice if we could work towards a common objective to annotate this four-dimensional data. And there's previous efforts like the one they're doing in MapHub, but I think nobody from MapHub is here, so we cannot discuss about that. And if somebody wants to talk about this further, I'll be running a session later, so come with me, please. That's it.